Well, I guess it's June now, so I'm going to talk about what I read in May. Hello, everyone. Britton here, also known as Samoki Dude, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the books that I read in May. Some of them are going to be a bit strange, but May was actually a pretty good month for me. I got off from school, and since I have freed up time now, I got to read a lot more. So I'm going to be talking about some of the books and comics that I read during this month, and manga. There was a manga in there because gotta get in on that trend, of course. But anyway, so let's get into it. First book I'm going to talk about is probably the most fascinating book that I read this month or this year, but I don't really know if I like it particularly yet. But that is The Vor from Bryan Catling or B. Catling. Let me tell you guys, this took me 4 months to complete this. That's how dense and complicated this book is. Not everything in this book comes together, admittedly. I did manage to get my friend Jason to read along with me. I'll link his video series he did for it down in the description. Despite the fact we bickered about it for about 70% of the time, it was good fun. I enjoyed myself. And The Vor is probably one of the most singular pieces of fantasy I've read in the last couple of years, aside from maybe American Gods and Perdido Street Station, or even Black Leopard, Red Wolf, for that matter. Is this book as great as those other 3 books are? I don't know. There are a lot of problems with this novel. Some character arcs don't really come together. There are some threads that are kind of just left dangling that you're just kind of like, what the fuck is this? All that fun kind of stuff, but I had a good time reading it. It's actually one I'd like to read again at some point, because I don't know if I fully got everything that Mr. Catling was really trying to go for. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good book, and definitely, I wish there were more fantasy out there that were like this, but, maybe a bit more, maybe with a more structured direction, if that makes sense. But I enjoyed myself. I thought it was, I don't know if it's, I should say I enjoyed myself, but I was deeply fascinated as I went through this book. Definitely suggest you should at least read it, give it a shot. I learned about it from Alan Moore, who's one of my favorite authors of all time, and he did a very glowing introduction of it, which interested me, so I ended up reading it. And I ended up buying the rest of the trilogy because I was so damn interested in what was going on in this book. I just had to figure out what was going to happen next, so yeah. I don't know when I'll get to the other 2 books of this trilogy, but I do think that this book is well worth the time. Though I will say you probably won't get all of it. I know I did not. And if you do, you are a much smarter person than me, or you are lying. Oh, man. I got to do a review on that at some point. Next book I got was a bit more simpler. Joe Lansdale, The Thicket. I am a big fan of Joe Lansdale. I love the Hap and Leonard series. I love the TV show they did a few years ago. Sadly got canceled. That was very unfortunate, because I really liked who they got. James Purefoy and, of course, Omar himself. Michael K. Williams were both excellent in the roles as Hap and Leonard. But The Thicket is his take on the Western, and it's a Joe Lansdale novel. It's got a lot of humor, it's got a lot of heart, but it also has a lot of really surprisingly depth-filled conversations about the cost of violence and, that kind of tainting feeling that you get once you commit violence. It's a really good. It's another good Joe Lansdale book. I mean, it's really something you should check out. I really enjoy it. Joe Lansdale, man, can't go wrong with this guy. I mean, he's probably one of the best crime writers working today, I would say. He's freaking hilarious. There were some points in this where I was laughing. Maybe not as much as the Hap and Leonard books, but it had its moments. I was particularly intrigued by this character called Shorty, who is who, as you can imagine, is a dwarf. He doesn't like being reminded of that. So, yeah, this is really good. I enjoyed it. And if you haven't read Joe R. Lansdale, do it. He's definitely someone who I think is worth reading, for lack of a better word. The next book is from another author I've kept my eye on for the past couple years. That is Victor LaValle, and that is The Changeling. I decided to finally get around to reading this because Victor LaValle has quickly shot up as one of the horror writers I've kept my eye on. The Devil in Silver, I read that last year. Really enjoyed that book. I thought it was a really good book. I do prefer Devil in Silver over this one. Though this one is very, very good. It's if you like Hellboy, if you like the Hellboy comic, it's basically it's sort of a modern day retelling of old myths from like Grimm fairy tales. There's references to Greek mythology, as is in The Devil in Silver. I mean, he really likes his Greek mythology. But it reminded me a lot of the Hellboy story. God damn it, The Corpse. That's right. The Corpse. It reminds me of that story. This is basically The Corpse from Hellboy in novel form. If you really want me to pitch it to you in that Hollywood way, I generally don't like it, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, The Changeling was a very good novel. More of a dark fantasy than a straight up horror novel, though it does have horror elements in it. But I really liked it. His LaValle's narrative voice is just so good, and his characters just come to life, and he really makes you care about them, which is a specialty of his, I would say. Another book I already covered on this channel, actually. I did a review of it recently. Last Argument of Kings from Joe Abercrombie. I finally finished it, guys. This might be my book of the month. I know there's people who do that. I don't usually, because, I don't know, I mean, sometimes I just have a month where I don't really have one. I'm like, oh, most of them are pretty good, or there were some that were kind of meh, but this one was probably my book of the month. This surprised me in a lot of ways. I already kind of described it in my actual review, so I'll try and keep it short. A very, very dark ending. An ending I did not expect, but an ending that was surprisingly fitting to the world that Joe Abercrombie had created. It's very bleak, actually. Again, I'll link you my reviews so you can see my further thoughts on this. But indeed, it's a rather fitting end to the trilogy of Joe Abercrombie's The First Law. Definitely going to check out more of his work because, man, he is one of the just top fantasy authors working right now. I mean, I'll admit I was a bit skeptical. I went into the series with modest expectations. I didn't expect to be blown away, but I mean, man, First Law, guys, gotta go check it out. It's really, really, really good. Last book I'm going to be talking about on this list is a bit of a stranger one, and it's called Light from M. John Harrison, who is a bit of a cult figure in science fiction and fantasy. He's well known for the Veraconium series. It's not really talked about a lot on this channel, or on YouTube in general. This is the first book of his, oh god. How do you pronounce it? It's the Kafuchi track. Kahuchi, or damn it, I can't pronounce it, but it's the Kafuchi tract is how I'm gonna pronounce it. This is definitely gonna be a novel that'll divide people, kind of like The Vor. Very strange, very unusual science fiction, which I enjoy. Part space opera. There's some horror elements in this. There's, it feels very much like a Philip K. Dick novel at times. It has that same energy of a Philip K. Dick novel, but it feels like more sophisticated. Like a lot of the stuff in this, I had no idea what the hell he was talking about, because some of the concepts in this, and he doesn't bother spelling it out for the audience, so good luck trying to get a grasp on what he's talking about, because there was some of it that just was like, oh man, but that's beside the point. I read another book from M. John Harrison called The Centauri Device, which I thought was okay. It was kind of it's called a masterwork, but I kind of thought of it as kind of mid. This is much different than that book. This is most definitely not mid. it will get some very strong feelings from people, and this is another one I'd like to read again at some point, because, I don't know if I understood all the shit that was going on in this. Because, Jason likes to say I kind of view storytelling like a puzzle. So, I like to piece stuff together, it makes it much more fun for me. But this book was really interesting because it deals with these very flawed characters, and it's also praised, but, you got Neil Gaiman right here, who's on the front. China Miéville liked it. Ian Banks liked it. Alistair Reynolds, if that means anything to you. I haven't read Ian Banks or Alistair Reynolds. I know they're big in the sci-fi field. I really need to catch up on science fiction, really. But that's beside the point. I enjoyed this book, again, I don't know if I said I enjoyed it, but I was quite fascinated when reading it. I definitely want to read the other two books at some point. The next book of this, which is called Nova Swing, is very much based on Roadside Picnic, which became the movie Stalker, so I'm very fascinated by that because I love Stalker. And I already did a review on Roadside Picnic, so you can go watch that if you want. I was a bit mid on it. I thought it was okay. It didn't blow me away. But this one, I said it in a blurb thing I did, but this is probably one of the most audacious science fiction novels I've read in a while, in terms of the uniqueness of the concepts and just the pure gusto that Harrison shows in his prose, in his storytelling. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And there's a lot of crazy concepts in this, too. It's just unbelievable. But Light is definitely worth the read if you want to check it out. Comics. So, what comics did I read? Well, I hadn't read a lot of comics this year because I've been kind of lazy, and also just I've been busy, and I've been reading, just regular books. So I decided to restart Criminal. So I usually don't talk about books I reread, but Coward from Criminal, reread that, and I did read for the first time Lawless. Not as good as Coward. Coward is awesome. This was really good. And Brubaker and Phillips, I've said it before, I'll say it again, probably one of the best creative teams working in comics right now. I really enjoy the symmetry of their storytelling. And I love Sean Phillips' design for his characters. They're all really... none of them look fake or, comic booky. It's not Sin City, for other matters. It's kind of like the grittier, darker version of Sin City, which is funny because, Sin City isn't a lighthearted book, but, I actually think it's better than Sin City. Probably going to get assassinated for saying that, but I just think the storytelling's more... It's better. It's more consistent, in my opinion. Really enjoyed Criminal. I really enjoyed Lawless anyway. Not as good as Coward, but I enjoyed it, and I will definitely be continuing on the series. So yeah. Another comic I restarted and eventually got back into was Descender from Jeff Lemire, who is one of my favorite creators working right now. Again, I reread Descender, the first volume here, and I read for the first time Volume 2. Good. I do have some issues with the pacing here and there. I do think it is a bit too quick at times. I wish that he would kind of just relax a little bit and let the world speak for itself, which is a problem I have with a lot of comics nowadays. But the storytelling and, of course, his sense of character is just, it's always very strong. And Jeff Lemire, he can do kids very well. That sounded wrong. He can write kids very well. That's a better way of putting it. He really understands how children think. He really gets to the sense of wonder that it is being a kid. And I love the art too. My God. It's watercolor. It's by Dustin Nguyen. So good. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Okay, maybe that's not a good example. Hold on. Look at this. Cinematic. It's cinematic, I tell you. Look at that. Look at that. It's fucking beautiful. That's just... It's just absolutely wonderful. Look at this. Look at that. Jeff Lemire has a good eye for talent. That's all I'm saying about that. I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's as great as something like Sweet Tooth or Black Hammer, but it is very well worth the read. And as a sci-fi fanboy, I really enjoyed it. And also, I like AI stuff, so you know that of course interested me. And then after reading Descender, I decided to go back to a series I had been reading, which is also about AI, and I ended up finishing Pluto from Naoki Urasawa, which was fantastic. Not as great as Monster, I'll put it like that. It is shorter than Monster, it is more concise than Monster, but I do find myself still preferring Monster. That said, though, that is not to say Pluto is bad or weak by any means, because it is not. It is a retelling of an Astro Boy story. Now, admittedly, I've never been a fan of Astro Boy, but you don't have to read Astro Boy in order to appreciate Pluto. There's a lot of commentary about trauma and what it means to be human, and if a robot can become a human being. I mean, it's the type of sci-fi I love. You know, science fiction about the human condition. And that, you know, that's the sci-fi I like the most. So, you know, that really appealed to me. And, of course, Naoki Urasawa's artwork is stellar. Love it. Such a freaking skilled draughtsman. Not at all like, you know, your more standard kind of manga illustrators that just kind of looks like anime, and some of the worst aspects where everyone looks like they're 12 and all the eyes are freaking huge, even though that's a big trademark of the guy who made Astro Boy. Can't pronounce the guy's name, but the guy who created Astro Boy really popularized that, so thanks, man. You've been swell. But yeah, I enjoyed Pluto quite a bit. I think it's a great series. Very good to start on. I mean, I'd either say that or Monster would be a good place to start with Naoki Urasawa. Sadly, I don't own it. I wish I did, but I read it through other means. So, yeah. Yeah, Pluto. Very good. I enjoyed it. Not as much as Monster, but man, it does still have those really touching emotional moments that Monster did. Just not as much, and the plotting is a bit more concise than Monster, because Monster kind of, I don't want to say like it gets distracted, but he does wander around a little bit. But he manages to, in Monster, to bring it all together, which is what makes it great. Yeah, Pluto. Really enjoyed it. I really like that. I'm definitely going to read more Urasawa in the future, though I'm probably going to take a break for a while, because now I read Monster, then I read Pluto. Now I want to check out some other manga. So, I mean, if you have any manga recommendations, if you've gotten this far, please let me know. I'd like to hear it, but it's going to be hard, because, man, did Urasawa set the standard high. But yeah, that's basically all the stuff I read in May. All the stuff I completed, anyway. Not everything I started in May. Like the Vor. It took 4 freaking months to read that book. Jesus. Sorry, Jesus. Anyway. Yeah, so that's basically all I got for right now. I can't wait to come back for June. So that'll be fun. We're in June right now, so I'm definitely going to be reading some more. And definitely there's going to be some more reviews that come your way. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Check out my Twitter, my Goodreads, and Letterboxd, which I have more coherent reviews, probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. And check out my Discord, please. I would appreciate that. Thank you. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this. And I will see you guys later. Goodbye.